massive updates coming to your favorite sim. Find out more right here, right now. Greetings petrolheads and welcome to romrom.net, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing, and to our regular news roundup where we tell you all that's new in the world of sim racing, racing games and anything else of interest to petrolheads in all things digital. If you have any news for us, be it a sim racing league, a different sim racing event or any other news that you think fit here, send us a mail to news@romrom.net. That's news@romrom.net. Is it a week already? Personally, this was a crazy week for us as we reached the 800th subscriber. Yay! Welcome to the family! And as we are preparing some changes in our content and maybe our schedule, while also working on an update of our services, coming hopefully either in June or latest in July. News-wise, there was less going on than in other weeks, but what we have is massive, with Automobilista 2 telling us their plans for the future and iRacing about to release what we think is the biggest update they've ever made. Also, next week Kartcraft is going to deploy an update that will better the graphics up by a lot, hopefully also making VR less jerky, and SnowRunner's developers have promised a big new update in the next weeks but have kept away from concrete statements, although it seems that what we find in the preview server will make it into this release. So we're concentrating this week on Automobilista 2 and iRacing, but before we do that, remember that if you want to be informed about new videos, click subscribe and also click on the bell and become part of the ever-growing RomRom family. Of course, as with every week, this week also saw an update of the Automobilista 2 Early Access build, which Razer have now stated it will be the last because they now concentrate on the 1.0 version, but more about it in a minute. This update brings some bug fixes in the user interface, as well as bug fixes and corrections in the force feedback and the physics, for the tweaks on the AI, which Razer themselves say it's still not finished, and some revisions in the car graphics and animations. Sounds all very much like wrapping up the work, right? Well, they are wrapping up the work on the beta as they are preparing themselves for the 1.0 release. In mid-June, Razer will end up the early access phase of Automobilista 2, saying they have at last reached all the goals they had set themselves for the 1.0. The car animations are ready and are being included in the sim one by one. They just released a multiplayer dedicated server tool this weekend, which they stress is still in beta, but Crunch is testing it nevertheless. They also say the ranking system is ready, but at the moment not deployed as they want to continue testing it, so in my opinion it's not ready, as no software should be ready until the testers have given it the green light. Sad news, if only for a while, is that they will not be able to release the GT3 GT4 car pack they had planned for June, as because of the pandemic they could not finish up many of the licensing deals they need to close before releasing it. Same reason they cannot give us estimates when it will be ready, as some companies are taking up speed faster than others. All the while they whet up our appetite, promising once the many deals are closed we will see, and I quote, from 60s 70s vintage touring cars to 80s Group C beasts, 90s British and German touring cars and mighty GT1s to modern supercars, end quote, coming to Automobilista 2. And other than the modern supercars, every other type of car listed here will be free. And while car licenses are in legal lockdown, so to speak, the long-term nature of track development will make it possible for Razer to punctually release Hockenheim, Mount Panorama and Silverstone, all expected on the 30th of June the latest. And a classic amongst the tracks, be it in real life or in sim racing, will at last be also in Automobilista 2. Spa in modern and historic variants. Ah, my dear Eau Rouge, we'll see each other again in Automobilista 2. I've missed you, have you missed me? With regards to what the future holds, while not giving any timing other than between 2020 and 2021, they have told us they will release the following DLCs in no particular order either. Names may change to protect the innocent, yada 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 yada. Brazilian Grand Prix Legends, a pack featuring several World Championship cars won by Brazilian drivers. I'd bet my life on all of Senna's cars being there. Historical Track Pack, a pack featuring historical variants of tracks featured in the game. Street Supercars, pack of road legal supercars. Racing USA, a pack featuring several North American cars and tracks, modern and historical. Adrenaline, pack featuring several off-road and extreme motorsports cars and tracks. And still no word on the Stadium Super Tracks. I guess we won't be seeing them in Automobilista 2 anymore. Automobilista 2 is still available on early access offer on Steam, 20% lower than the final price, and as we've heard, it will only continue there until mid of June. With the start of Season 3, iRacing is delivering a massive update in our laps. For all NASCAR fans, and after they already published North Wilkesboro last week as we informed you in the news, see the link up there, this week's iRacing will be bringing the Chevrolet Monte Carlo and Ford Thunderbird from the 1987 NASCAR Cup Series to the sim, which were driven then by Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Bill Elliott, and if you have never heard of them, look them up because they were as iconic as their cars. Continuing with these updates, the Ford F150 joins the ranks of the iRacing cars, as do the BMW M4 GT4 in the IMSA Pilot Challenge and the USF 17 and PM18 in the IndyCar series. With regards to tracks, the new configuration of the real-life Kentucky Speedway will be published this week, as well as Road America getting a new coat of paint by way of refurbished graphics for it. Multiple official series will see limited tire sets, and iRacing expects hosted and league events to also add this change to the racing weekends. The caution phases are going to be shortened and drive-through penalties added. User-created sessions will give you the option to shorten up the parade lap in a rolling start to a partial lap. Their new and improved and much more detailed damage model will be added to 7 more cars, which will include the NASCAR Cup ones as well as the Porsche 911 GT3, and many cars got tire updates. Also, if you have a multi-core CPU, iRacing will use additional cores for the damage calculations, thus speeding up those. They are also releasing a new sound system, which they expect will improve the sound quality. For now, you will have to switch to X Audio 2 API by yourself via the Options menu, then Direct Sound System. It's been a work in progress since 2012 or 2013, I guess. But to be fair, it only took speed in the last 3 years. There's also an update to the cameras inside of the sim, with camera shakes now being a thing for outside cameras and auto exposure available if you have the HDR rendering enabled. The AI has also seen extensive work with lots of improvements, especially in passing each other and human players and going 3 wide, as well as managing brake locking and recovery. These are only a couple of points in an enormous list. AI drivers have also been added to many series as well as many track configurations. Last but not least, they've done extensive work to the beta user interface. Oh, and their store now has a prices page where you can see a complete list of tracks and cars, their prices, as well as being able to see which of them you own. The list goes on and on in a myriad of details, so check our description for a link to the full release notes. Now, this is an update. Expect hot fixes every day after the release because that is the nature of software development. You have been warned. What you see here is the first NASCAR Heat 5 trailer with graphics we've been promised come from real gameplay. We cannot help but to find the graphics quite standard, but graphics are not the most important thing in sim racing, right? We hope we are the most important thing in your life. Don't break our hearts telling us otherwise, so keep us company by clicking on the playlist to the left or the video to the right. Until next time, save fuel, collect pickup, and we'll see each other at the podium. Visit romrom.net to connect to fellow sim racers and sim racing fans.